The sound of paper tearing cut through the bank like a gunshot, sharp and final, and in that instant, the single father knew something precious had just been ripped away in front of his children. The check, the last fragile bridge between dignity and desperation, fluttered in two useless halves as the bank manager's hand dropped to her side. The triplets stood frozen, three small faces identical in shock, their wide eyes reflecting a moment they were far too young to understand, but would never forget. If you believe stories like this still matter, if you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive. The man had not planned for this day to end in humiliation. He had dressed carefully that morning, smoothing the worn collar of his jacket and brushing his daughter's hair with gentle patience, braiding it the way their mother once had before cancer took her away. The check in his pocket represented weeks of overtime, a small construction payout that would keep the lights on and food on the table. He brought his daughters because childcare cost more than he could spare, and because he wanted them to see him stand tall, even when life bent him low. But as the bank manager glanced at the check and then at him, something hardened in her expression, a quiet judgment that spoke louder than words. The tearing of the check was not just a financial blow, it was a public stripping of worth. The triplets felt it immediately, even if they did not fully understand. They sensed the tension, the way adults nearby pretended not to look, the way their father's shoulders stiffened as though he were bracing against a storm. He felt anger rise, then shame, then the familiar ache of failure that had followed him since his wife's funeral. He wanted to gather his girls and leave, to disappear into the city where pain blended into noise. But something rooted him there. Perhaps it was pride, or perhaps it was the silent promise he had made to never let his daughters see him break. The bank seemed to hold its breath. The manager turned away as if the matter were closed, already moving on to the next task. The next customer, the next problem that was not hers. Behind her, through the glass walls of the office, another woman had been watching. She wore a tailored suit and carried herself with calm authority, the kind that did not need to announce itself. She had seen the man's hands tremble as he gathered the torn pieces, seen the girls clutch one another instinctively, forming a small shield of unity. Something about the scene unsettled her, stirring memories of her own childhood when her father had stood in similar lines, pride thinning with every rejection. The father felt the room shift before he understood why. Footsteps approached, steady and deliberate, and the manager's confident posture faltered. The woman from the office stepped forward, her presence commanding attention without raising her voice. She looked at the torn check on the counter, then at the man, then at the children. In that moment, power quietly changed hands. The father did not know her title, but he felt the weight of her gaze settle on him with unexpected respect. What followed unfolded slowly, like a knot loosening after being pulled too tight for too long. The father was guided to a seat, his daughters beside him, small hands gripping his sleeves as if afraid he might vanish. The situation was reviewed carefully, professionally, and without judgment. The check was validated, the account verified, the mistake acknowledged. More than that, the man was seen not as a risk or a problem, but as a person carrying an invisible load far heavier than the paper he had brought in. As the process continued, the triplets began to relax. Their shoulders dropped. Their eyes wandered curiously around the bank again, innocence cautiously returning. The father felt a warmth he had not expected, a fragile hope blooming where bitterness had threatened to take root. He realized then how close he had been to giving up, how one small act of cruelty could have pushed him over an edge he had been dancing on for months. The woman in the suit did not make a spectacle of her authority. She corrected what needed correcting and ensured the father left with more than he had come in with. Not wealth, not charity, but dignity restored. The manager who had torn the check stood quietly to the side, the consequences of her actions settling in without fanfare. There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just the firm realignment of what was right. As the father and his daughter stepped back into the sunlight, the city felt different. Not kinder, not easier, but survivable. He knelt to their level, steadying his voice, and promised them silently that he would keep going, no matter how hard the road became. They smiled up at him, trusting as only children can, unaware that they had just witnessed a turning point that would shape how they saw the world and their father forever. If this story touched something deep inside you, if it reminded you that compassion can appear when we least expect it, please take a moment now to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps spread these stories of hope further than you know. Before this video ends, we have a special request for you. Comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter, and they might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Because sometimes it only takes one moment, one person willing to see another human being clearly, to turn humiliation into healing and despair into quiet, enduring hope.